Hours passed. The candles guttered low. "Thank you for your company," it rumbled at last, its voice softer, almost reluctant. Relief flooded her. It hadn't been so terrible. She had survived the night with the only thing she had: stories. Then, "Will you be my wife?" Serena's breath stilled. I cannot," she whispered, horrified. The beast rose, towering. "Then I have no use for you," it said. The finality in those words sent ice through Serena's veins. Would the king have her executed for displeasing his monstrous companion? Panic clawed at her throat, but in that moment her storyteller's mind worked faster than her fear. "I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me." She blurted out, words tumbling forth. "Kings command me, but I command fate. What am I?" The beast paused, massive head tilting slightly. "What is this?" it growled. "A riddle," Serena said, her voice steadier now. "From a story I know." She lifted her chin, summoning every ounce of courage she possessed. "If you can solve this riddle, then I will be yours," she tells the beast. "And if I cannot? Then until you do, I hope you will allow me to return, to tell you more stories." The creature stared at her for what felt like eternity. Then, to her astonishment, it exhaled. "Tomorrow night, then. Do not be late." Serena returned to the servants' quarters. The room fell silent instantly. Wide-eyed, the other girls watched her cross the stone floor, pressing against the walls as if she carried a disease. The head servant, a woman with iron-gray hair, grabbed Serena's arm with surprising strength and pulled her into a small alcove, away from the others. "You're alive," she hissed, her face lined with disbelief. "How—" She cut herself off, glancing over her shoulder. "Say nothing to anyone, not a word, do you understand? The king will see you at noon." Serena nodded, noting how the woman's fingers trembled despite her stern demeanor. Her return had clearly shaken the castle's order. Sleep was elusive, her dreams haunted by amber eyes and unanswered riddles. She was jolted awake by rough hands. The sun was already high. A guard stood over her, his face unreadable beneath his helmet. "The king demands your presence," he stated flatly. "Now." She followed him through a labyrinth of corridors and up unfamiliar staircases to a private chamber. Not the throne room she expected, but a study filled with books. Inside, Alpha King Darius stood against a massive window, bathed in sunlight. Only two others were there: Bertie, who avoided eye contact, and a man who looked like a warrior, likely the king's beta. Darius's eyes tracked her as she entered, studying her with cold calculation. Up close, the beauty that had struck her before seemed sharper, more dangerous in the daylight. Not a single imperfection marred his features, as if the gods themselves had carved him from marble and forgotten to make him human. "So," he began, his voice a mix of velvet and steel, "you met my guest. What did you think?" Serena lowered her gaze, bowing slightly. "He was generous to me, as was your majesty for choosing me as his slave." A flicker of curiosity, or was it suspicion, crossed Darius's face. "And that is all you have to say?" he probed lightly. "His Majesty's guest has requested my presence again tonight," she answered softly, keeping her head down. Darius moved closer, his presence almost predatory. "Will you go?" he asked, his smile mocking. "If it pleases your Majesty. I am indifferent to whether you or another entertains that thing," he said dismissively. Serena couldn't hide her reaction to the word thing. Darius noticed. "Does my choice of words disturb you, slave?" He leaned in. "What word would you use to describe such a horrid beast?" The room tensed. "Your Majesty may of course use whichever words he pleases," Serena responded carefully. A heavy silence followed. Then, impulsively, she added, "Although even beasts are allowed respect." The beta gasped, and Bertie paled. "Respect?" Darius sneered, his pupils narrowing. That beast is a dark stain upon my castle. I allow enough respect by keeping him alive and fed. Serena bowed lower, staying silent as Darius circled her, each step measured. The gown, the jewels, return them to Bertie, he ordered. Everything in this castle belongs to me, and I will not allow a mere slave such luxury. She nodded, her voice caught in her throat. And should you speak to anyone of the beast, he continued, his voice a threatening whisper, I will know, and I will have you killed immediately. Do you understand? Yes, Your Majesty, she murmured, bowing again. He studied her a moment longer, then dismissed her with a wave. Get her out of my sight. That night, as the castle fell into darkness and silence, Serena was led once more toward the oak door. This time, the guard didn't meet her eyes at all. Days melted into weeks as Serena's life settled into a strange new rhythm. Nights were spent in the beast's chambers, and days were filled with the duties of a castle slave. Each evening followed the same pattern. A beautiful gown awaited her. A feast was laid out, and she told stories until the candles burned low. What tale do you have for me tonight? The beast would rumble, settling his massive form across from her. She would weave her stories, always careful to leave them unfinished. And then? He would press as she paused. Tomorrow, she would promise with a hint of a smile. By day, her life was altogether different. Though permitted to sleep later than the others, by noon she was on her knees scrubbing floors, her fingers raw from lye soap and cold water. Missed a spot, Bertie would say, pointing to an invisible imperfection. Start again. The other servants avoided her, their initial curiosity having curdled into something uglier. Disease carrier, whispered a kitchen maid. That's why she's still alive. She thinks she's better than us now, an older servant muttered. The king's whore, suggested another. Serena bore their words in silence. Being alone was nothing new. She'd been isolated her entire life. Occasionally, she would encounter King Darius in the corridors. Sometimes he ignored her entirely. Other times, his perfect lip would curl in disgust. Still alive, I see, he remarked once. My guest must have peculiar tastes. The servants whispered about him constantly, their voices hushed and fearful. He killed his own father, they say, an elderly gardener confided to another. I heard it was his mother who died first, came the reply. More rumors circulated, of rivals who challenged him and were never seen again, of servants executed for trivial errors. True or not, fear of Alpha King Darius permeated every corner of the castle.